The Kasumiōji Conspiracy Arc, aka the New Captain Arc, spans from episodes 168 to 189. It's Bleach's second major filler storyline following the Bount arc. While the arc has drawn major criticism for interrupting the Arrancar saga at a high-stakes moment, the arc does deserve some credit. It attempts something different. It pivots back to Soul Society and centers its narrative on politics, betrayal, and nobility, as we explore new lore inside the Soul Society of Bleach. It has an ambitious blend of court intrigue and character-driven conflict. It introduces new figures like Captain Shusuke Amagai and Lady Ruchio Kasumiōji, and while it stumbles in execution and definitely pacing, it also offers uniquely grounded stakes that make it worth examining in full. Hi everyone, my name is Pokesel, and welcome back to my Ranking the Filler Arc series, edited by Drew, aka What If Universe. Today we're going to be examining the New Captain arc, which I just mentioned above. It's the second major filler arc inside the story of Bleach. Now, as always, I'm going to be recapping the entire arc for those of you that are manga only or non-filler anime watchers. The arc begins with a sense of restoration. In the aftermath of Aizen's betrayal, the Captain Commander Yamamoto formally appoints Amagai as the new captain of Squad 3. This is a refreshing narrative decision. Amagai's introduction plays with viewer expectations. He's humble, awkward, and surprisingly jovial for a captain. This immediately sets him apart from Soul Society's rigid upper ranks. His request to bring his trusted subordinate Kabune into Squad 3 further reinforces his grassroots, teamwork-first approach, at least on the surface. However, it is very obvious that there is more behind the scenes than meets the eye. Tensions within Squad 3 are quickly addressed in a welcoming party, where Amagai shows his lighter side. In a humorous moment, he becomes completely drunk after a single drink of sake, stumbling over himself while his new subordinates begin to warm up to him. This slice-of-life tone does an excellent job making Amagai feel like a character you want to root for. Unfortunately, this goodwill is quickly complicated by a major lore contradiction. When the Hell Butterflies signal a threat in the Dangai, Squad 3 is the ones that are sent to respond. They fight off several Gillians with efficiency. However, the real shock comes in when the Cleaner, a powerful unstoppable force of nature introduced earlier in the series, emerges. Without hesitation, Amagai destroys it in seconds. This moment is one of the arc's worst missteps. In the canon storyline, Aizen's destruction of the Cleaner is meant to showcase his overwhelming power. The Cleaner is described as being above nature, a kind of failsafe that even captains aren't supposed to be able to touch. For Amagai, a filler character with no prior feats, to dispatch of it effortlessly and drunkenly undermines not only Aizen's portrayal, but also the internal logic of the Bleach universe. It's an unfortunate case that artificially makes Amagai appear formidable, despite none of his future feats matching his newfound strength. Despite this, the rest of the introduction remains charming. He praises Kira for taking command during the emergency and shows signs of being a genuinely thoughtful leader. Meanwhile, the arc shifts back to the human world, where Ichigo encounters the true central figure of this arc, Ruchio Kasumiōji, a noble heir on the run from assassination attempts. She arrives in Karakura Town with her guards Kenryu and Enryu. This setup immediately evokes a political thriller, with the stakes centered around internal corruption rather than world-ending destruction. Ruchio's demeanor and fish-out-of-the-water antics add a layer of levity, as do her clashes with Ichigo's blunt attitude. The earlier episodes play her up eccentrically. She appears in Agigai, complains about hunger constantly, and brazenly inserts herself into Ichigo's school life. And while all this is very annoying to watch as a viewer, eventually we get a sight past her aristocratic life. She is a young girl trying to stay alive, and her vulnerability slowly comes to light as the assassination attempts intensify. This arc also gives supporting characters meaningful screen time. When assassins begin attacking Ruchio, Rukia Ohime, Sado, and Uryu each step in to help. The Bakoto, the mysterious non-Zanpakuto weapons wielded by the assassins, each have unique abilities that make them stand out. For example, an earlier enemy uses a blinding mirror weapon that disorients Ichigo and Rukia, leading to a clever moment where Ichigo must fight with his eyes closed. These assassins, while somewhat one-note, at least bring a side of creativity to their fights. Back in the Soul Society, a different kind of conflict brews, one rooted in ideology and personal history. Lieutenant Izuru Kira, still quietly haunted by his former captain Ginichimaru's betrayal, finds himself once again under the authority of a charismatic superior, Makoto Kibune. Now keep in mind, ranking-wise, Makoto Kibune is actually below Kira. Amagai appointed him as third seat. However, as time moves on throughout this arc, you start to see the squad members almost respect Makoto as if he is the lieutenant of the squad. Eventually, Makoto brings the squad for some standard training exercise that eventually escalate into a moral crisis. Kibune reveals his ruthless beliefs when a hollow begins to absorb a fellow Soul Reaper. Rather than attempting to rescue their squad mate, Kibune coldly declares that the weak have no place in battle and eliminates both the hollow and the Soul Reaper without hesitation. This moment crystallizes Kibune's Darwinian mindset, a philosophy that valorizes strength at the expense of compassion. For Kira, this is a triggering echo of Gin's manipulation and disregard for others. Once again, he's under the command of someone who treats subordinates as disposable tools. But this time, Kira doesn't stay silent. He challenges Kibune's authority, not just physically, but ideologically, standing up for the idea that leadership demands accountability and empathy, not cold detachment. Throughout all their duels together, they are all charged with more than just steel. Kira, who often exists in the emotional background of Bleach, steps into the spotlight with conviction. His Zanpakuto Wabisuke, which doubles the weight of anything it strikes, becomes the perfect metaphor for Kira himself, carrying the emotional weight of betrayal, guilt, and unspoken resentment. By wielding the weight and turning it into strength, Kira doesn't just defeat Kibune, he symbolically sheds his lingering loyalty to the past and reasserts control over his own path. This fight may be small in scale, but it's massive in emotional payoff, especially as the fight has a rematch and another rematch after that. It's one of those few moments in the anime where Kira isn't defined by who he used to follow, but by who he chooses to be. It's a hard-won, cathartic step towards healing, and one of the arc's most genuinely satisfying character beats. Now keep in mind, I'm kind of out of order with the events that I'm recapping to you guys as the audience. At this point in the story, the political aspect has escalated quite a bit. Maruchio is replaced with a fake to push forward a sham marriage to a puppet noble. Ichigo and his friends return to Soul Society. They team up with Amagai, who surprisingly eventually betrays them. At this point, he had appeared heroic. In this twist, it's actually revealed that Amagai had been playing the long game. His father, Shinetsu Kisaragai, was executed under Yamamoto's orders, and Amagai had infiltrated the Gotai 13 to exact revenge. This revelation reframes his entire character arc. His warm demeanor, his emphasis on unity and trust, all become double-edged, a masked warrant to get close enough to the captain commander to kill him. Amagai's betrayal is thematically rich. Even if it feels abrupt, the arc tries to present him as a tragic figure, someone who lost faith in the system and chose vengeance. It's a rare case of filler actually delivering a character with moral ambiguity. When his final confrontation with Yamamoto reveals his Bakoto's true powers, nullifying Zanpakuto abilities. This forces Yamamoto to fight without his flames, and sets the stage for Ichigo's climatic duel with Amagai. Their fight is surprisingly well faced. Ichigo initially outclassed due to the Bakoto's suppressive abilities. He however evens the odds by using his hollow masks. This is when he identifies the Bakoto's weak point and shatters it with an enhanced Getsuga Tensho. Now keep in mind, my biggest issue with this section of the story is the fact that Yamamoto should have been able to beat Amagai without his flames. I mean, Yamamoto is the captain general of the Gotai 13. He is stronger than a captain even without his Zanpakuto, just with his knowledge of Kido and Hakudo alone. He is a beast. He does not need his Zanpakuto to win. Taking that small gripe aside though, what elevates the final battle isn't just choreography between Ichigo and Amagai. It's the emotional undercurrent. Ichigo isn't fighting out of duty, he's fighting to protect someone innocent and to stop a man consumed by grief. Amagai's death is handled with somber dignity. He thanks Ichigo and vanishes. Having achieved a bitter sense of closure, the arc doesn't forgive him, but understands him. A rare feat in filler storytelling. The arc concludes with Soul Society recovering suffering from the events. The corruption within the Kasumiōji clan is exposed, Yamamoto acknowledges Amagai's tragedy without condoning his actions, and Richiyo is finally safe. The Kasumiōji compound is raided, and the political structure of Soul Society begins to restabilize. I already mentioned it, but the groundbreaking flaw of Amagai being able to destroy the cleaner never being fully explained, that feat in and of itself puts Amagai on a whole nother level than what he was shown to be able to do throughout the arc. But at the same time, Amagai's strength in general. I mean, he should not have been able to give Yamamoto a fight, even when Yamamoto lost his Zanpakuto abilities. Yamamoto was just nerfed too hard in that moment. The pacing of the arc is also another issue I found with the arc. However, its pacing is still so much better than the Bound arc's pacing. Richiyo is an annoyance. She is just annoying. There's not much more to put into it than that. The way she complains, the way she talks is just like, you don't want her on the screen. But it's also part of the point of her character, as we do get that undertelling of her more tragic side as the story progresses. Still, I feel like throughout the story, maybe it's just the way that they directed her character. She could have been slightly done better. Overall though, those are it for my flaws. While the Bound arc has higher highs, and I think Jin Kariya is a better villain than Amagai, I also believe that the new Captain arc is more consistent at the very least, even if the highs aren't there. This is the perfect arc to watch if you guys are a fan of Izuru Kira, because I feel like it really dives much deeper into his character than anything else. One thing I thought of is, what if they made this arc without Ichigo and his friends? What if they designed this filler arc rather than as like an alternate reality where Ichigo is no longer in Wako Mundo, as it literally interrupts the Grimmjow and Inoitra fight, like it happens right in the middle of that very tense moment. What if they just kept that as what's happening and instead showed this as a case of, this is what's happening in Soul Society while Ichigo's been in Wako Mundo? Now, I know it's hard to do a filler arc where you don't have your main protagonist, but it would have been interesting to say the least. Now, granted, that's a very big if. This is what we got. The Kasumiōji Conspiracy Arc is not perfect, but it is ambitious. At its best, it gives rarely spotlighted characters like Kira meaningful arcs. At its worst, it commits lore-breaking errors like Amagai casually destroying the cleaner. Still, there's something admirable about what it tries to do. Amagai is a compelling main antagonist, a man who enters with humility, wins trust, and then burns it all to pursue personal justice. His betrayal hurts because we wanted to believe in him, and that's rare in a filler arc where most antagonists are flat and transparently evil. The pacing does lag in the middle, with a few episodes feeling like they exist solely to extend runtime. Some assassination attempts feel repetitive, and Richiyo, while enduring at times, can feel annoying. But these flaws don't outweigh the strengths entirely. In the end, the Kasumiōji Conspiracy Arc is above average, and while not amazing, similar to the Bound arc, does not deserve the hate it received. It gives us a political mystery, a tragic villain, and several moments of character growth that leave a lasting impression. For those willing to look past its placement and inconsistencies, and for my Izuru Kira fans, it's a rewarding watch that adds depth to the world of the Soul Society. Overall, I would give it a 6 out of 10 and place it in high C tier.